Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BruWings and Things podcast. This is episode 12, and I'm your host, Kaylee, alongside the usual Cameron and Alex. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can't see how Cameron looks right now. Good for you, I guess, but I guess he's playing poker after this episode, so he looks like an absolute douche.
Yeah, just gonna do some, hit some full houses, roll some double decker, get some chips, big bet, small blind, red, 00. That's
I
it.
hate everything I just heard.
Yeah,
He's literally wearing.
I'm playing poker after this. I actually do know how to play poker. That's a joke. But yeah, having a bunch of friends over playing poker after this, so we better hurry up. Let's find out what's brewing in the NHL. Let's go.
I'm glad to know our podcast comes second after your shitty poker with your stupid friends.
Hey, well,
it literally it's poker shirt.
It's literally coming first. So,
all right. Anyways, let's get to some hockey. He's wearing sunglasses and a shirt with cards on it, with playing cards on it. If you're not watching. Yeah. So if you want to go to YouTube to see what it looks like, be my guest. But anyways, in the NHL this week, they announced the all-star rosters. They're doing this type of last man in thing as well, where they're giving you options to vote for the last man in and who you think it should be. But first off, based on the all-star game announcement and who made it, I think we have to talk about who we think are the biggest snubs so far. I know there's still the whole last man in thing, but there's guys that definitely won't make it because there's only certain options that you can choose for the last man in. Alex, I think Lucas Raymond is one of them. I know Charlie McAvoy is on there, so obviously I want him to make it. But for me, the biggest snub, obviously, surprise, definitely Brad Marchand. He currently leads the team with 40 points. He has 19 goals and 21 assists. He's currently 7th in the league in points. He's actually on pace for 114 points and 56 goals, which would be a career high. The guy's on fire right now. He just got a broken nose the other day, and on top of it, he got elbowed yesterday in the nose by Roman Josi, and he continued to score right after that happened. So it seems like pain makes him stronger, just like his critics makes him stronger. So hopefully, I hate to say it, but hopefully he gets like one more hit in the nose and maybe he'll get a hat trick again or something. But no, just kidding. I want him to be healthy, but he is just on a tear right now. And I think the main reason he wasn't selected into the All-Star game, this is my conspiracy. So he'll be glad I used that term. I think the NHL is upset with him for calling them out regarding the whole Olympic situation. So I think that's definitely one of the reasons. And it's no secret, we know every all-star game in every sport is a popularity contest. And who's more hated than Marchand? Arguably Tom Wilson. But so yeah, biggest snub goes to Marchand. It's an absolute shame we won't get to see him play, especially since he's getting older. And who knows how many more all-star games are left during his career. So that's my take on that. So Cam or Alex, whoever wants to go. I want to hear yours.
I agree with you on the Brad Marchand snub. Obviously, he's been absolutely lighting up everyone so far. And he deserves to at least be a last man in. And I think when it comes to the All-Star game in general, I think the NHL still has PTSD over the letting fans vote for whoever you want to be in. Because what was his name again?
John Scott.
Yeah. John Scott.
Come on, that was incredible, though.
It was, but the NHL was so mad. They literally another conspiracy that is real. They sent him down to the AHL.
So and they traded him within divisions. They traded him to a different division in order to be like, oh, he can't be the captain of this division because he's not in it anymore.
Exactly. So they purposely did that so they wouldn't have this terrible guy. Well, he wasn't terrible because he scored the game-winning goal, but still, like, they still have PTSD over that. So they're making the fans. Fun. Yeah, they don't care what the fans want. They just want everyone to feel included. And this is another problem that I have, that every single team, no matter what, gets a player in the All-Star game. Like, it doesn't make sense. They should have the best players from each division play against each other. I know that the Bruins have 3 of the best players in the Atlantic on one, or on not on one line anymore, but they should still be able to play with, Stamkos and Hedman and all those awesome other players against Crosby and Ovechkin. Like, just because there's a lot of good players on one team doesn't mean those players shouldn't be allowed in it. That's what pisses me off about the All-Star game this year. And yeah, sure, you have that last man in, and that's fun, little fan vote, but you don't even let the fans decide who they want in. It's ridiculous.
To me, it seems like one of those things that it would be an easy fix if they didn't just make it be like, oh, you can only have, 10 per division. Like, they're limiting it to 40 players or whatever it is, right? Like, it would be so simple if they wanted to have at least one per every team, which is fine. That's fine, because I think each team arguably has at least one all-star on their team, unless you're like the Montreal Canadiens. But like, having those extra players from the other teams, that's fine too. More representation for the teams that actually have ridiculously high skilled players. I think the part where they're missing is they're limiting the number of players, and that doesn't make sense to me.
So Alex, who's your snub?
Yeah, I mean, Marchand definitely makes sense. Another one that I would say at this point too is Igor Shesterkin has been arguably the best goalie the entire season, and he's not on there. Or another one from New York would be Artemi Panarin, who's been absolutely lighting it up, and he isn't, I don't think, even the last man in vote for New York. So, couple there.
They have Fox and Kreider there, so they're probably like, too many people. Like, they don't want to have a third player on the Rangers, and
that's fair.
Yeah, so we got the All-Star roster this week, and we also got the USA Olympic roster. We also got the Czech roster. Those are the two that I was most in tune with, because I saw that Krejci will be playing for the Czech roster, so that hurt a little bit. But these names on the USA team are like super interesting. We got like 40-year-old like ex-national leaguers on here, and it's just I don't know about you guys, but I want to watch this because of the chaos that it's going to be. How do you like, are you guys definitely going to tune into this, or are you not even going to bother because it's going to be a shit show?
I don't know. As long as the USA and Beijing or in China face off, I want to see every China game, and I want to see how many points they lose by every game. That's what I'm most excited for. I think even with Team Canada, or that's not out yet, but whoever they string together, if they find a guy playing pond hockey on the street, he's going to absolutely snipe some goals on some Chinese goalies. So no offense, but they're not very good at hockey. That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, we got 2 blasts from the past for our Bruins fans. We got Steven Camper, not that far in the past, but David Warsofsky is just so funny to me. He played in, I think it was like 2013 and 2015 for the Bruins, and he was back and forth between the AHL and the NHL pretty much his whole career. And then once he went down, he just went overseas and started playing in Europe. I thought he was like 40, but he's only 31. So David Warsofsky, that's just a name that brings me way back and super nostalgic. So can't wait to see him play again.
Yeah. Represent the USA, baby.
There's going to be a lot of fun NCAA players there as well. Yeah. A lot of representation.
Yeah, Alex, I was going to ask you like who you're excited to see for the USA Olympics.
Honestly, I'm going to be really excited to see like the 19 and 20-year-olds that are playing, like Brendan Brisson and Matt Beniers. A lot of Michigan guys, there's some Harvard and BC and BU guys, and these are the teams that you would normally see anyway. Some Minnesota representation. The top NCAA programs are going to turn out guys that are probably locks to be NHL stars, or at least mainstays. And so these guys are going to be going over there. Brock Faber's another one. Jake Sanderson, who's the Ottawa defensive prospect, who's been absolutely lighting it up. And then one that I'm actually really excited for is Strauss Mann, who is the goalie for the University of Michigan for the past few years, but he graduated out, and so he's playing actually in Skellefteå in the SHL. So he'll be a fun one to see because I'm used to seeing that name.
It's actually, I was looking, and it's the youngest Olympic team since 1994, the youngest USA hockey team. So there's a lot of young guys, and there's 6 former NHLers.
It's just gonna be such an interesting mix. Like it's just so random. Like it's like just a bunch of misfits. It's like the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to at least tune in. Obviously, we're gonna root for our country, but if USA sucks, then go Krejci. I'm Team Krejci. So that should be definitely a cluster to watch and see what happens. But moving on, I feel like this comes up a lot, or it has came up a lot so far this season. We did touch on this last podcast regarding the whole Evander Kane saga. Just some more news came out. They asked Connor McDavid about it, and I experienced something personally when I voiced my displeasure for what McDavid said regarding the situation. So the media asked him about it and what they think about McDavid or Kane. They asked McDavid about what they think about Kane possibly joining the Oilers. And McDavid said, right now, it's all speculation. Obviously, Evander is an amazing player, and he's had lots of success over the last couple of years. Whatever else is going on, it's not something I look into much. I'm not really here to discuss optic issues. If fans don't like it or their media doesn't like it or whatever, it is what it is. He said, I'm sure there's lots of things that go on the ice and whatnot that fans don't like. We don't necessarily have to discuss those with you guys. The public opinion is obviously something that matters a lot, but we're here to try to win games. So this is, history repeats itself. This is something that's constantly occurring in hockey culture and the NHL. It matters. They care about winning. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what the guy's done, but we're here to put that product on the ice and win games. And we saw this with the Blackhawks as well, because, Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane totally disregarded the whole sexual assault thing and continued to praise their management and their staff, even though they overlooked something so horrible and wrong. But they were there to win games, and they win those games. So that's clearly all that matters. And I tweeted about that, and I was like, you expect something better from one of the biggest faces of the NHL and a leader. Like Patrice Bergeron would never, let's just say that. I had to throw that in there, but it's true. And someone said to me, they're like, well, Connor McDavid shouldn't have to answer for Ken Holland's decisions. Well, that's true. McDavid isn't the GM. As the captain of the team, you have to be prepared to be asked those questions, and you have to have those responses prepared. And even if Kane thinks that is true, that, whatever, I don't really care about what he's done, but we need to win on the ice, at least say something better than that, so the people that look up to you don't hear you say these things. And it's just such a bad look. Like, it's disappointing to hear him say that. He could have had a much better response. He could have worded it differently. It's just the disappointing culture that's reoccurring in the NHL and hockey everywhere. So disappointed but not surprised, which I feel like we say a lot. But it's just annoying how people are like, well, it's not his decision, he shouldn't have to answer for it. Then what is a captain for? He's going to be asked those things whether he likes it or not. And the sad truth is, we know what he said is how he feels. I'm sure he doesn't care about what Kane may or may have not done. They just care about winning. And that's something that the NHL needs to get better at, but I don't see it ever happening because this is, like I said, a reoccurring issue. So Cam, I know Alex has a lot to say about it, but Cam, what do you think about McDavid just brushing this off and basically praising Evander Kane? Because he's a great player, even though he's a terrible person.
Yeah, that's kind of par for the course. You could kind of sense with McDavid, he's kind of just fed up and doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care about politics. He doesn't care about anything. When he says we're here to win, he's actually saying, for the love of God, I just want to win a playoff series. He's willing to the longest yard this to get a bunch of convicted felons on the ice and just beat the crap out of everyone until he wins the championship. He probably doesn't care about anything. And while sure he could do that, it does suck when an entire franchise or like an entire fan base is like, no, we don't want him. We don't want him. Please stop. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to win these games, whether you like it or not. We're going to win the Stanley Cup with all these terrible people. And then we're going to celebrate and you're going to like it. And they're like, no, we don't want these people. Please get nicer people. And they're like, no, like, I don't understand why you have to do that to your fans. Like, I understand if you pick a guy that a fan base may not like, I don't know, like Pacioretty or someone going to like Vegas. Like, I don't know. Can't think of a good example, but I can understand like an on ice rival coming to your time and the fans being like, oh, I hate that guy. But like someone who's like actually committed, like I don't want to say crimes, but potentially, and has broken COVID mandates and done terrible things. It's not good. It's not a good look. It's not a good look to bring them on. And it's not a good look to say, hey, you guys may not like it, but I want to win games in a sport and I want to play these games and have a higher score than the other team. So that's why I'm letting this person who is a bad person on my team. It's like crybaby. Like, it's not captain like at all.
Yeah, we're gonna do what we want, and whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to deal with it, which is the broken mentality. Like, I don't care. It's like, I mean, I'm trying to think of a non-political example because I don't want to get into politics, but it's like if your manager at work has sexually assaulted women before, and then me as a woman, them hiring him on because he's the best manager that can be found. But they're like, we know that he's done this before, but you're just gonna have to deal with it because he's a really good manager and he'll bring in money for us.
And it's like everyone is saying no.
Same thing.
We don't want that, and they're like, too bad.
Yeah, so
okay,
it's just unfortunate but typical. So yeah, I definitely want to hear what Alex has to say about the situation.
Well, first off, obviously Evander Kane's an exceptionally polarizing player because of how good he is on ice. I mean, he's a guy who can score 30 goals every single year. He's very clearly an asset to his team on the ice. But that's obviously overshadowed by everything that happens off ice. To me, Evander Kane is a victim of two different, typically opposite and contrasting hockey culture issues. There's the one where he is often accused of things that he didn't do, and it's found out that he didn't do them, but that doesn't matter because that's going to continue to give him this relationship, which then continues to bring up more issues. But then obviously there's things that he is guilty of. He makes poor decisions off ice, and a lot of times that gets unchecked by the NHL in an actual official capacity. He got suspended for a number of games because of the COVID infractions and stuff, but they're kind of ignoring the root of the issue. And this tends to hurt Evander Kane as much as it hurts the league and its fans, because Evander Kane doesn't get the help that he needs, and he clearly needs some help. The league looks like a joke because they don't know how to manage it, and the fans lose confidence and passion for the sport that they love when something like this continues to happen and players like this either continue to get rewarded or even punished unfairly. And Evander Kane's a weird one because he gets both. There are times where he gets unfairly accused of things, and there are times when he gets away with too much. McDavid's comments to me are pretty much exactly what I expect from the NHL at this point. And let's not kid ourselves here. 98% of NHL players, if they were faced with the situation that Taves and Kane in Chicago were faced with back in 2010, they would do the exact same thing now. Even the ones that said, oh, things have to change. I love making parasocial relationships with my favorite NHL players as much as the next person does, but I'm not an idiot. I know that these people don't give a shit about anything other than the money in their pocket. If there's a chance that the things that they could say or the things that they could do to change the game are going to hurt their on-ice performance or hurt their next paycheck, they're not going to do it. They don't give a shit. They care about one thing, and it's not making change. And you want to know how I know this? Because besides the obligatory once per season, let's put rainbow tape on our sticks, and the 12 billion different charities donating to dogs instead of like actual human issues, name 3 players in the NHL who have actually done active work to make change in any meaningful capacity. Robin Lehner, sure, he's advocating for mental health. That's a good one. The Hockey Diversity Alliance is made up mostly of ex-NHL players who have faced these issues head on themselves. So that doesn't even count because most of them aren't actively playing in the NHL. That's it. There's not many players that have actively made real, tangible, physical change. And until that day comes, I'm not going to be surprised when shitty NHL players with shitty mindsets continue to say shitty things. And unfortunately, that's what's happened here with McDavid. It's stupid, and it's not going to change anytime soon just because people say it's going to change. They need to actually do something about it. So.
Hell yeah, Alex. I love that. So true. I think we need you to like be the NHL's advocate for change. Like the thing is, the NHL should be hiring people like you, or any type of young person or BIPOC person, or any type of diversity would be the start to change. Like, it really is that simple. Like, am I wrong? Like, any type of diversity to start hiring people externally and giving younger people voices and chances from different backgrounds. Until that happens, then nothing's going to change.
There's a hockey account that I follow on Twitter, and I forget exactly who it was that said it, because there's a couple that I kind of get mixed up every once in a while, but they said something to the effect of, an NHL team should hire me for like $100,000 a year just to tell them no when they have things that they want to do. And that their point was for like on ice or like transactions or whatever, like they just ask this person, should we do this? And he says no. And it would probably save them a lot of pain in the long run. But as far as this goes, some NHL team needs to hire people that they can ask, hey, is this a good idea? Should we do this? And they should say, no, clearly it's not.
But he could score 30 goals.
Well, and that's the point, is that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, that brings in more ticket revenue and that brings in playoffs, and they're a team that's outside the playoffs right now. So,
yeah.
Cam, did you want to talk about Ken Holland?
I just think so. I was on, hockey Twitter, as they say, and I was just seeing that teams were literally lining up to like talk to Kane about wanting him on their team. And Ken Holland was a big advocate for getting Evander Kane on the team. And I thought, that is so him. That's so him to do that, to make to bring a team that's already like they're not really gelling. They're struggling every time. They don't have the locker room chemistry to make it past the first round. They can't do it. Ken Holland has repeatedly beaten the Oilers like out of skill. He's destroyed their salary cap. Like he's shackled them like money wise. And now he's like, you know what this team needs? This team needs a polarizing player who is sometimes a locker room cancer, who is breaks COVID protocol, who has all of these conspiracies against him. This is what this team needs. Not, just a hardworking secondary scoring, keep your mouth shut player. We need a really, really polarizing player on this team. And I know, Alex, you have some thoughts about Ken Holland, about what he's done for you in the past. And I just love that it's like a trend that is going on, and that he's just becoming like I said, he's becoming like a Peter Chiarelli, like just beating teams into the ground. And it's funny that the Oilers went from Peter Chiarelli to Ken Holland, and they're just swinging and missing. They got one more strike left before they become the Quebec Nordiques.
Yeah, Ken Holland came into the forefront for the Red Wings as GM in the late 90s after they had won that first cup in 97. So he already came into a team that was built up with astounding players. Obviously, they had just won the cup, and the year before that, they had set the record for the most NHL wins. So he was inheriting a really good team. There was some things that he was able to do well. He sold Detroit as a perfect destination for players that wanted to play there before the salary cap era. He made some good trades to bring in guys like Dominik Hasek. Like, he did some good things before the salary cap era. Then the salary cap era kicked in. The biggest issues with Ken Holland, and this kind of summarizes a lot of what he's done the past 15, 20 years, is that he's not a good talent evaluator, and he doesn't know how to manage the money and term in contracts efficiently. You see many GMs are very good at signing shorter term, decent, almost not home team deals, but like good value deals, and being able to get excess value out of the players compared to what they're being paid. Not Ken Holland. Ken Holland's never been good at that. He signed, let's just look at this, Stephen Weiss in 2013 for 5 years, $24 million. That's a lot of money for a guy who ended up only playing like 2 seasons with Detroit. He ended up getting bought out. Franz Nielsen was signed 6 years, $32 million. That's another guy. Exact same thing happened. And that 2016 was crazy because that was the year that Datsuk left Detroit. And so we needed a second line center. And so his contract was traded to Arizona with the first round pick that we had. For Arizona's first round pick. So we dropped back in the draft. Arizona got Jacob Chychrun. We got a player who is now, I don't even know where he's at. I think he's in the Washington system. But we also lost. We were trying to get Steven Stamkos. That was the year that Steven Stamkos was a free agent, but we signed Franz Nielsen instead. So the poor man's Steven Stamkos. Trevor Daley was signed for 3 years, $10 million. Like there's a number of, and this is just while he was in Detroit, there's a number of things that were signed long-term for a lot of money that have had to been cleaned up by then. Justin Applicator's another one. He was signed for like 7 years with a lot of money per year. His contract is just now off the books. Like there's a lot that's happening still to this Detroit Red Wings team. And he hasn't been here in 3 years now. So we're still cleaning up some of his messes. And I'm sorry to Oilers fans, this is not news. He traded 2 second-round picks for Andreas Athanasiou, who was a Red Wings player, who I liked, but he only played like 13 games in Edmonton, and he traded 2 second-round picks for him. It's just unfathomable that these things go through his mind, and he's like, yes, this is a good way to construct a team. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so it's like I said, very on par for the course for him for wanting Kane.
Yeah.
Poor Alex has really been through it with his Detroit sports. Let's pour one out for him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of managing money and team-friendly deals, Tuukka Rask is back on the Boston Bruins, and he signed for what, a 1 year, $1 million contract, right?
Yeah, I was like, where are we going with this? Are you the host now?
Sorry, I thought of that segue like 4 minutes ago when Alex was talking, and I was like, I have to use it. So
he literally gets so excited when like something we're talking about relates to the next thing we're going to talk about, and he's like,
I literally heard Alex when he was talking about Kane. He said asset, and I was like, be an asset, not an ass hat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're really going to beat.
You know who's an asset? Tuukka Rask. And now that we have him,
hell yeah.
Now that we have him and Ullmark back, it's gonna be great. Bruins are firing on all cylinders. We don't have to talk about Rask that much. We don't have to give our own opinion on it, but me and Kaylee.
We always have to talk about him.
Poor Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah. Poor Jeremy Swayman.
No more goalie hugs.
No more goalie hugs. Just normal psycho goalies. Tuukka Rask.
Did you guys see Linus Ullmark hugging himself after the win? The first game Swayman left.
That's funny.
He was literally walking to the locker room and he was leading the way, and he just wrapped his arms around himself all alone. And I think it was Bar Down. They posted it on TikTok, and they posted the song Driver's License, and you see him hug himself, and it says, "You said forever, now I drive alone past your street." And I was like, don't do this to me. But yeah, Tuukka, oh my God, I'm so glad he's back. The Bruins are a freaking wagon, have won 8 of their last 9. The only game they lost so far in 2022 is that stupid ass Minnesota Wild game with all those stupid ass penalties. And yes, I'm blaming the refs for that one because that was an atrocious game. That was so frustrating. So technically, we're still undefeated in 2022. And with Tuukka back, Pasta, I think my favorite part of his return was not only was it a 3-2 win against the Flyers, the Bruins played classic defense in front of him with a bunch of turnovers. Tuukka had to stop 2 breakaways. Like, how often had the Bruins had to stop any breakaways this year? And Tuukka gets back and he's like, oh shit. Bruins defense is back because I'm back. So Tuukka had his work cut out for him, but they still won 3-2. And Pasta got a hat trick that same game. And he said he actually told Tuukka he was going to get a hat trick for him because he was so happy Tuukka was back. And he did. He was like, I told him I was going to get a hat trick and he didn't believe me. So I think the Bruins are already hot, but with Tuukka coming back, I think it just really put them over the edge because they definitely feel a little too secure when he's in net. So I'm just over the moon and I'm going to take in every game as much as I can because this could very well be his last half season, not even full season with the Bruins. So
cool. All right.
I see you're just as excited as I am.
Well, we don't have to talk about it too much.
Why is that?
Because we all agree with you. All right.
He really hit me with a cool. He's got a poker game in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so he's
I know.
Like
I'm
looking
trying
at
to
his watch.
speed this up a little. It's okay.
Wow. All right, you can be the host now.
All right, okay. So here we're gonna do hockey history, and then I'm gonna go to my betting. Okay.
You suck. All right. So since I'm being rushed on this podcast, I will jump right into today in hockey history. So Gordie Howe became the NHL's all-time leading scorer on January 6, 1960 in the Detroit Red Wings 3-1 win over the Chicago Blackhawks. Shout out to Alex. His goal and assist gave him 947 career points to put him ahead of Montreal Canadiens legend Maurice Richard. He remained the league's greatest scorer until Wayne Gretzky broke his mark of 1,850 points in 1989. So shout out Gordie Howe, one of the GOATs. Too bad Alex did not live during that time.
Yeah, it is too bad. I miss Gordie.
Mr. Hockey. Gotta love him. Speaking of hockey, I have betting.
Speaking of hockey that we've been talking about for the past 30 plus minutes.
Speaking of being really good at doing things involved with hockey, I predicted that the game between the Bruins and the Capitals last Monday, or this past Monday, was definitely going over. And I said it was going to be around a 6-3 score, and Ovi was going to have at least 4 shots. Well, it was, or what I say, yeah, it was 6-3, at least 4 shots, and it was 7-3. So I even underestimated my genius, and Ovi had exactly 4 shots in the game. So I'm not saying Cam Stradamus is real, but I have a conspiracy about Cam Stradamus being real. So I'm not saying take my advice, but I am wearing a shirt covered in poker cards. So that's all I have to say about that. But if you want to look at something else, you could look at the Avalanche playing against the Wild. Now, we talked about the Bruins losing to the Wild, and that was bullshit. And that's right, because the Wild aren't that good. In their past 10 games, I think they're 4-5-1, while the Avalanche are extremely hot right now. They're one of the only teams in their past 10 games to have 8 wins, along with the Bruins. And they're on fire. And for some reason, these idiots in Las Vegas have the Avalanche minus 1.5. So they have to win by 2, minus 1.5. They have it at plus 110. So that's actually the underdog spread. So definitely, I'm not saying bet on, I'm not saying it. I'm not telling you to. It's not advice. But I would totally bet Colorado Avalanche minus 1.5 for Monday midday at 1 p.m. Do that. But don't listen to me. Okay.
Awesome. Very good.
Cool.
All right. So I normally talk about different team analytics and stuff like that, but today I want to get into something a little bit more specific. Let's talk about the Calder Race. So I think it's pretty evident that I'm a Red Wings fan, and I've got 2 ponies in this race currently. Betting. See,
Thank
horse
you.
racing. Yeah, there you go. And that would be Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond. But obviously, there's a third contender in there with Trevor Zegras, who is playing almost at the same exact points pace as Lucas Raymond is. They're, in a lot of people's opinions, they're more or less tied. Zegras might have an edge on Raymond a little bit just because he's not playing first line minutes. But I'm here today to break down some of the analytics just a little bit on how they're playing on the power play, because that plays into a lot of overall points for top pairing defensemen, which is what Moritz Seider is, and top 6 forwards, which is what Lucas Raymond and Trevor Zegras both are. So these are numbers that I was actually looking at earlier this week. So they're a little bit outdated, but the point behind them still kind of stands. These are as of the 11th of January. Moritz Seider has 9 points on the power play. They're all assists. He doesn't take too many shots unless it's just kind of shooting through a screen. Trevor Zegras has 7 and Lucas Raymond has 6. Now, an interesting thing to note is the difference in both teams' power plays. They both had roughly 100 chances on the power play, but the Ducks have converted on 29 of them. So they've actually converted on 27.5% of their power plays. The Red Wings have only had 14 power play goals all season. So that's literally less than half. They're converting at just above 14%. So if you want to look at the impact that each player has on the power play, you have to look at the percentage of points that they're contributing versus the amount of goals that are scored on the power play. Moritz Seider having 9 points on 14 total power play goals, it means that he's converting 64% of the time when he's on the power play. That's insane. First of all, that's really good. Big fan of Moritz Seider. Lucas Raymond is see, everybody is. Lucas Raymond is converting at 43% because he's got 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists on 14 goals. Trevor Zegras has 7 points on 29. So he's closer. I think it's 24% is what that gets close to. So what this is telling me is that the play is being driven around guys like Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond. And I was looking this up because I was curious. I wanted to just make sure that I wasn't like ignoring external factors. Trevor Zegras is on the first power play unit for the Ducks. There are 5 players that have more power play points on the Ducks than Trevor Zegras. And some of those are power play 2 guys. Now, Lucas Raymond and Trevor Zegras both average around 2.5 minutes on the power play per night. And again, they have roughly the same amount of power play opportunities, the Ducks and the Red Wings. So that's something to keep in mind here as well. So even though Lucas Raymond has fewer points and he has a little bit more time on ice in total, they're more or less pretty much even in 5v5. And Lucas Raymond has just a bit of an edge in terms of his efficiency in completing plays while on the power play, because the play kind of drives through him as opposed to Trevor Zegras is more of like a secondary asset on that power play, since so many more people have points than him. Lucas Raymond has the second in points on the team on the power play, with Moritz Seider being the only one who has more. So the Calder Race is close. There's still literally half a season to go, but I think this is a lot closer between those 3 players than people would probably think at this point. And if I had to give my money on anybody winning at this point.
So if you were to make a bet,
I would say Trevor Zegras, because the NHL really likes guys who do flashy things, and there's kind of a North American bias when it comes to things like that. If I were voting, if I had a vote, I would vote Moritz Seider first, only because the dude is doing all of this while playing with Danny fucking DeKaiser. That's it.
And while being only 19.
He's 20, but yeah.
Yeah. But, he's only 19.
Lucas Raymond's only 19.
There you go.
Yeah. The Wings have a bright future. So thank you for that rundown, Alex, and thank you, Kim, for your rundown as always. That is all we have for you guys today. So we will see you next week on the BruWings and Things podcast.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
See you later.